Sorry about that. I'm a partner at the New York-based law firm of Ellenoff, Grossman and Scholl. I am a corporate and securities lawyer and have been practicing for over 30 years. My law firm has been in business for more than 25 years, and there are nearly 100 lawyers offering legal services in more than 10 practice areas. We are regularly one of the top 10 IPO law firms in the nation. This year alone, we've been involved in more than 20 IPOs. I spent nearly 5 years after the passage of the Jobs Act working with the leadership of the crowdfunding movement, traveling extensively, including dozens of trips to DC, to provide our views on the proposed and final regulation crowdfunding rules. The various Jobs Act provisions were a meaningful advancement of our securities laws, and Congress should take a victory lap for causing their adoption. Crowdfund Capital Advisors indicates that several thousand jobs have been created since the implementation of the regulation, and nearly 1,000 companies have been funded. 48 of the 50 states have had their entrepreneurs raise capital through these exemptions. I'm currently counsel to the Association of Online Portals, who is having an event here in DC on Monday, and I have had a prior association with the Crowdfund Intermediary Regulatory Authority. I am chairman and co-founder of iDisclose, a LawCloud, a legal technology document automations company that has been utilized by crowdfunding entrepreneurs 200+ times to prepare and file their required Form C disclosure documents with the SEC. iDisclose has also developed apps for filing PPMs and Reg A+ filings. I'm also co-founder of Guard, another development stage legal technology company that provides updated and ongoing disclosure of private issuers to facilitate secondary trading of their securities. My comments are those of my own, not my firm, nor my partners, clients, or the associations to which I am affiliated. I've disassociated myself from a lot of folks. While we all recognize that there are collective charges to calibrate the proper balance between capital formation and investor protection, many of us disagree to some extent on how to practically implement that foundational concept into both the private and public securities market to make them function in a more efficient and responsible manner. Today, we are continuing the dialogue to better understand how our markets actually operate and what changes we should consider implementing to improve them further. Even if we had the proper formula for that balance between raising funds and protecting investors in years past, public markets continue to change, and I think it is fair to say that for many, including our most visible and successful entrepreneurs, remaining private longer is the preferred approach. In the span of my professional experience, we've seen a dramatic decline in the number and appeal of public offerings and corresponding increase in the interest of remaining private, free of regulatory burden and expense. I can't emphasize that enough. In many ways, the reasons for this transformation are less important and too complex to unpack, but the very real need to honestly acknowledge and respond to these realities is undeniable. With less than a few hundred companies making the determination to go public each year, I would argue that the private markets and public markets exist for two very different reasons and constituents. While we want the private markets to be our funnel or farm team to the big leagues of being public, there are less than 10,000 publicly traded companies in the US and millions of private companies, with hundreds of thousands of companies that have raised outside investor capital. So while we should be cognizant of the relationship, how these two markets interact, and how and why private companies in particular elect to pursue an IPO or become public through other means, we should, in my judgment, ensure both markets are operating optimally and regulate only to the extent absolutely necessary. For this reason, I'm here to provide testimony in support of broadening the definition of accredited investors to also include appropriately credentialed professionals, also permitting the use of the SPVs for regulation crowdfunding, approving the M&A broker proposal, which effectively codifies the SEC's recent no-action letter regarding the same, so that small business brokers who provide services to small privately held companies need only to comply with a simplified registration process, approving the creation of the venture exchanges to facilitate secondary market liquidity for the thousands and thousands of privately financed investments. I'm also here to voice my concern and disapproval of the amendments to the Form D for the pre-filing and also the elimination of that exemption if you fail to file the form. And lastly, the associated market study that accompanies that. And lastly, with my remaining 10 seconds, I want to congratulate NASA for their 100-year anniversary and Michael for his tour of duty running that organization.